Hey, this is Scoots. If you fall asleep fast, I'm really trying to get your attention with this voice. So please pause a second, okay? But if you aren't in a position to support the show, if you're new, you only listen occasionally, you're just going through a tough time, don't worry about this message. We've got you. Listeners like Stephanie support the show, so you don't need to worry about it. But if you fall asleep fast, it's really tough to keep the podcast going in a way that benefits fall asleep fast listeners. It really comes down to fall asleep fast listeners supporting the show, which is, I guess, irony and paradox. Because if you fall asleep within 5 minutes, why would you support the show, right? If fall asleep fast listeners don't support the show, it just can't even exist. Pretty weird conundrum, unique to shows like Sleep With Me. So I don't know, is your why strong enough? Fall asleep fast, is that a big enough why to support the show? Would the show not being here be strong enough a why for you to support the show? Or is there something else, like something like Stephanie said? Stephanie's been listening to the show for 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter describes all the time. Tried it, disliked it, didn't get it, and then I was traveling and I gave it another try, and I fall asleep really quickly now, and it's completely worth supporting the show. In tough times, Sleep With Me's been there, and I feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means so much to me that I can't help but be a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me, like there was people with limitless money that should be doing the part for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of those people who should be a supporter. It took a while to step up, but I did. Scooter works hard for us, so do a bunch of other people, too. And hard work deserves fair compensation. I just hope my support is helping. Well, it is, Stephanie, and it's helpful to hear your why. And if you've got a why, but you haven't supported the show, you could support the show because of your why right now, especially if you fall asleep fast at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But then I'm going to send you a video. I'd love to hear your why of why you're about to sign up and support the show. Or, you could be hopeful like me that someone else has a why out there and they fall asleep fast and they're going to sign up tonight. But if it's you, you could do that at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. Thanks.
This show is supported by Odoo. When you buy business software from lots of vendors, the costs add up and it gets complicated and confusing. Odoo solves this. It's a single company that sells a suite of enterprise apps that handles everything from accounting to inventory to sales. Odoo is all connected on a single platform in a simple and affordable way. You can save money without missing out on the features you need. Check out Odoo at odoo.com. That's odoo.com.
If your eyes are the windows to your soul and your glasses are the windows to your eyes, then it's pretty important to find your perfect frames. That's why at Warby Parker, we've made shopping for eyewear as easy and fun as can be. Peruse endless styles in our stores or use our app to virtually try on frames and get personalized recommendations. To find your next favorite pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to locate your nearest Warby Parker store, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Friends beyond the binary. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's time for the podcaster who, don't worry, I won't I won't be a baby for New Year's. I probably act like a baby sometimes, especially if I'm up after 10:30 p.m. But I'm here to, kind of baby you off into dreamland. Welcome to Sleep With Me. These are all intro episodes we put out over the holiday season. I'll talk more about it in a second, but so glad you're here. Hope you enjoy this show into the new year. We're going to have new episodes, Great British Bake Off episodes coming out, trip to IKEA, and a lot more cool stuff coming just as soon as next week. New episodes of Sleep With Me come out Sunday night and Wednesday night. And I'll see you in 2024, everybody. I'm already, I don't know where I am right now that you're listening to this. But I'm looking forward to being in your ears and keeping you company because I know how it feels. Thanks and good night. All right, everybody. This is an all intro episode for the holiday interlude. One of the most popular things we do, and people seem to love it. So, If you really love all intro episodes, join Sleep With Me Plus at the Boar Besties or the Boar Friend level. You'll get 2 all intros every month, and I don't even know how many hundreds of all intro episodes are already in that. You get a podcast feed with just all intros and all night episodes in addition to the ad-free episodes, the story-only episodes, the bonus shows, and you could get it for 7 days free. Check it out at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. But I know everybody loves these, so that's why I put them out as a gift to everybody who loves the all intros all year long. Couldn't do without all you. And, at these times of the changes of the year, I'm so grateful I get to help people that are going through something I can relate to how it feels and how I can help where I was helped in the past by comedy radio. Help give you some relief and help you to wind down and ease you off into dreamland. So wherever, however you celebrate the holiday season or the changeover, or if you don't, or you say, I know a lot of people I'm friends with, it's not easy. That's why we put out episodes instead of taking a total break. And we have these special all intro interludes. So there'll be 2 of them. And I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much, everybody.
This show is supported by Blue Land. Living a cleaner and more sustainable lifestyle by reducing single-use plastics is a small action that makes a big difference. And Blue Land is on a mission to make it easy for everyone to make those sustainable choices. They believe that hardworking, clean products can be the norm, not the exception, so that you can do better for your family and the planet at the same time. From cleaning sprays and toilet bowl cleaner to dishwasher and laundry detergent tablets, Blue Land's 100% microplastic-free, EPA Safer Choice certified formulas are safe to use around people, pets, and plants. You'll love not having to choose between the safe option and what actually gets your house clean. Blue Land products are independently tested to perform alongside major brands, and the formulas are free from dyes, parabens, and harsh chemicals. Plus, Blue Land is a certified B Corp and certified cruelty-free by Leaping Bunny. Their formulas are EPA Safer Choice certified, and many have received the Gold Material Health Certificate from Cradle to Cradle. And right now, Blue Land has a special offer for listeners. Get 15% off your first order by going to blueland.com/PRX. You won't want to miss this. blueland.com/PRX for 15% off. That's blueland.com/PRX to get 15% off.
Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts, like things on your mind that you're thinking about. So thoughts, feelings, physical sensations. So anything coming up for you mentally or in your mind, coming up emotionally, feelings or physical feelings. It could be changes in time or temperature. Whatever it is, I'd like to take your mind off that. And what I'm going to do is I'm trying to create this safe place. I'm trying to smooth it. I'm going to pat it. I'm going to rub it down. It's very roomy. It's a safe place I could send to you. And one of the ways I send it to you is by sending my voice across the deep, dark night. I use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, superfluous tangents. I'm going to go off topic. I'm going to have pauses that are not pregnant with meaning, or I guess they're pregnant with meaning, like to say, hey, I'm here to help. Or is it more like, hey, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to say next and I have no idea. That's more like with a message. I'm going to go off topic, get mixed up. The whole idea of the show is I'm going to take your mind off stuff while you fall asleep. Now, if you're new, a couple things to know, right up front. I want you to know that most people come to this show skeptical and doubtful, and they actually remain that way for 1 or 2 listens. It takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to this show. So if you were going to make a free investment, it would be that investment of your time. And literally, I do the thank yous that are at the end of the show before I record the intro. Because it always helps me remind me who's listening, that you're listening, and I need to respect that. But I got a healthy reminder of like 6 or 7 reviews in a row of people, that 5-star reviews that said, hey, it took 2 or 3 tries. The first time I did not like this podcast. So if you're feeling like that, that's totally normal. And I would say, hey, give it a try, but the podcast just might not work. It doesn't work for everybody. But out of all those people that just took the time, and that's like a big lift to say, well, I'm going to go on a podcast app, I'm going to write a review with my thumbs and figure out how to do that. That means that their skepticism, that it's kind of true. That it's like, wow, I listened to this 2 or 3 tries. I want people to know that. And I only say that to give it a chance, but that also, it's okay if it doesn't work. I wish it worked. I wish this podcast worked for everybody. Because if it was, I'd be podcasting from a yacht, but it just doesn't work for everybody. So I hope it can work for you. So see how it goes. That's probably the most important piece of information, is that if you're skeptical or doubtful, it's totally normal and the usual reaction to the show. And that, 2, kind of give it a try. 3, going along those lines, is kind of listen to it loosely or out of focus or barely pay any attention. Because, I'm not going to really get to anything sensible, or it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. This is not a cohesive podcast. So the main way to listen is just kind of get comfortable and then say, okay, let me see how this goes here. Let me see. I'm not so sure about I don't know. Let me get comfortable and just barely kind of listen to this person. So that's one thing, is this is one podcast not meant to be totally listened to, but you could. Because the other side of it is it's a podcast that's really more here to keep you company while you fall asleep. I'm not really a podcast that puts you to sleep, even though I kind of say that just to try to make it make sense. I'm more of a sleep offering. I'm here around the campfire talking as you get in your bedroll and get cozy and drift off. The only difference is that there's no social expectation that you pay any attention to me or to give me any attention or pretend you're listening. You don't even have to pretend you're listening to me. Though, as I do like to talk about, it can be pretty fun to say, Scoots, Like, even if you're interrupting me or gently talking over, Oh, yeah, totally. Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. Okay, Scoots, Totally could see how you'd feel that way. Like, sometimes I fall asleep like that. Oh, yeah. Well, no, okay, not that part. Oh, yep. So see how it goes. Don't really pay me any attention. No pressure to fall asleep. The reason the shows are about an hour is to give you plenty of time to drift off. You could drift off at your leisure. And then if you can't sleep, you know I'm going to be here. There's some listeners, and maybe that's you, like, that are listening to the podcast because they can't sleep, or they're up at night, or they're trying to get to bed during the day because they work 2nd or 3rd shift, or they're on call. And I'm here for you, whether I could put you to sleep or just keep you company. That's really important to me, too. In fact, I would say that's the higher mission of the podcast. And to make a joke, then there's people that are in a higher mission of listening to podcasts right now. I'm here for you, too, to make you giggle. So those are a couple of things. And I thought of something else I was going to say in there, and then I forgot it. But what else? Structure the show. That's the next thing that can throw new people off. So let me explain that to you. So show starts out with a greeting, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. Then I try to say something funny, but that it also shows that that I have a confused sense of humor. I confuse what's humorous and what's ridiculous. And so I was talking about cinnamon spice. Then there's business. That's how we bring the podcast out twice a week. Not super important for like new people, and that's a few minutes. Then there's an intro. Now the intro is the big bulk, the first third of the show. So the intro is around 12 to 20 minutes of the podcast. And it's just me doing this, what we've been doing for the past 10 minutes or so, which is kind of explaining what the podcast is, going off topic, being a little bit silly. So it introduces the show to a new listener like you, but then a regular listener like you, and if you become a regular listener or you already are one, even if you want to test out something new, the idea of the intro is it's part of your bedtime wind down routine. And that you get ready for bed and you're listening, or you're in bed getting comfortable and you're listening, or you're doing some other wind down activity. Maybe you're sipping at a bedtime tea. Maybe you're looking at the sky. I don't know, maybe you're quiet sitting, maybe you're I don't know if journaling would be the best, but maybe you're drawing or doodling or knitting or hooking. Maybe you're painting. I mean, that's great. So whatever it is, the intro is kind of meant to be to wind down with you. If you're a regular listener, if you're a new listener, it kind of just gives you a lay of the land, which is like a kind of meandering, and you say, wait a second. Are those undulating hills? And I say, maybe they could be. I like the way you think about hills. I love undulating hills. So that's the intro. Then there's business between the intro and the episode. Then there's an episode. Tonight we'll be talking about Doctor Who, of all things. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary trees and multiforms. But I can guarantee by the end of the episode, you might be saying, was that episode about Doctor Who or whom? Because I don't really remember that one. Or you may say, I don't watch Doctor Who. Or I watched it like back in like 20 years ago, and I said, don't worry, this is going to be sleepy, and you don't need to know the show at all. You'll get a pretty good idea as I tell it to you in a nice, calming, meandering fashion. Then there'll be some thank yous at the end. So that's the structure of the show and the kind of rules of what to expect. The other things are that the reason I make the show is for you, because you deserve some rest. If you're on call, or you're working second or third shift, or you got stuff on your mind or feelings or physical sensations. You deserve some respite from that, and a place where you could at least get some relaxation, if not some sleep. If I can't give you a little break, maybe I could take your mind off stuff as you drift off. So you do deserve a good night's sleep. So that's one thing I want you to know. The other thing I want you to know is that I've been there. I know how it feels, tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. I have all of those in varying degrees. And so, I'm happy to help it because I know how it feels. And I want to make bedtime less of a chore, less of something you dread and more something you could look forward to. So that's everything. I mean, the other thing is and this could be surprising to a lot of people, but a lot of work and thought goes into these shows because it's really important to me. But a lot of the work is nonsensical because I was thinking of the Cinnamon Spice at the beginning and then the Spice Girls. And then I was thinking, well, at some point they became the Spice Women. And then I said, well, are they getting pitched all the time? To do a reboot of the Spice Girls at all. Or, I mean, I know I think they did a reunion tour or a reunion special. So I was thinking that, and I said, it's probably coming. But then I said, well, what about, remember the Care Bears, right? And you say, what do the Care Bears and the Spice Girls have to do with one? And I'd say, whoa. It's a pretty easy connection to make. So the Care Bears were back in the 90s and the 80s maybe. And they were different teddy bear type characters. I don't know if they were from the land of Honolulu or something, but they all had different powers based on what was on their belly. Like someone would say, Rainbow Unicorn, I'm Rainbow Unicorn. What were they, the Care Bears? They cared about different things. I think one of them cared about a pot of gold over the rainbow. Another one about, hugs, sleep. They all had different things, very much like these other themed characters and beings. And then I said to myself, okay, I guess that'll be a series we'll do one day, not in the near future, but maybe in the long future if I remember. I mean, we couldn't use the Spice Girls because obviously that's a brand and Care Bears are a brand. But I was thinking Cinnamon Spice, like I say, okay, well, you should go over and see Rosemary after that because you know what I mean? Like, how come there hasn't been any, or when did herbal-based and spice-based characters, how come they haven't got their day? You say, well, what would you rather do? Have Rainbow? I said, well, Rainbow Peppercorn. Go, you're down? Go see Rainbow Peppercorn. She'll pep you right up. Also, just so you know, that I've shared this information. So it is, this is my idea. So don't do like Like the spice, I don't know. I'll think of it. But so that's something to look forward to one day. And that's just how my brain works. And then I slowly tease those thoughts out over a year or two and eventually make it into a bedtime story you don't need to listen to. I do the work that you don't need to listen to. It's a great deal. And it really is my honor. Like making the show is my dream come true. I get to work really hard. It's something that's helpful to you. And then I feel like it's important that the work that goes into it really builds what you don't have to pay attention to in some paradoxical way. But in the end, it's really about you getting a good night's sleep, you deserving a good night's sleep, and me knowing what it feels like on the other side of that. And also being reassured that when you're rested, your world's a better place and our world's a better place. So I think that's it. I'm really glad you're here. I appreciate you checking the show out, giving me your time. Like I said, I work hard. I yearn and I strive to help you fall asleep. And here's a couple of ways we're able to do it for you twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. We're going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever is keeping you awake, whether it's thoughts you're thinking about, like things on your mind. Maybe your brain's doing something, calculating, remembering, predicting, anticipating, other stuff, or just like, interrupting you, this is a distraction from your brain distraction. Because here's the thing, every time my brain distracts me, it seems like it's like a high priority. Like, do we have any sandals? Can you look that up? I say, wait a second, I'm trying to get this project done. Well, I'm just wondering if we have do you think any sandals are on sale? Because wouldn't some sandals be nice right now? It's really important to me. And they said, well, this is important to me to get this work done. I'm in the middle of a podcast intro, believe it or not. I can see your point about those sandals, though. And my brain would say, well, do you know what a sandals resort is? I've heard of that, and I've seen the ads, but I don't really know what that is. Could you look it up? Maybe there's some deals on sandals resorts or Club Med. Those things, I've heard about them on TV and movies, but I don't really know what they are. I say, okay, well, what about this podcast? Oh, boy. Well, what do you think? Don't you think this would be a good time to look that up, though? Maybe what if we just go to the Wikipedia? Well, I say, but I'm going to bed. But in this case, I'm making a podcast intro. Usually you're saying that while I'm going to bed. And now you're saying it when I was trying to make an example of it, but then you took me off topic. You're right, though. That isn't, I think they're all inclusive. It's like this is just my guess. Either one of those, they may be separate things, but I think they're like a corporation that makes all-inclusive resorts. But that's all I know. Okay, well, we'd know more, though, if you looked it up. And if you saw if there's any specials or anything, maybe they got a newsletter. Maybe there's a blog about it, like an unofficial blog with reviews and deals. Remember that time? Okay. Anyway, great examples. You did a good job. So that's thoughts, feelings, any feelings that are coming up for you. They might be emotions, longing and forlorn emotions for deals and information or past regrets or other things. I don't want to put too many words on it. Those might not even be feelings. I'm not sure. Like wondering, is that a feeling, you think? Wondering if we're going to find out more? I don't know if wondering's I know I have a feeling when I say I wonder why. You're still bringing up Sandals Resorts, which aren't even a sponsor of the show. And with the time we're recording this, there's 0.0 chance of us resorting at all. But I got to get back. So thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, if you're experiencing anything physical, that's good. Like, I'm here to take your mind off of the stuff. It could be any other things, changes in schedule, routine, noise, partner noise, weather, or just mystery stuff. Oh boy, that mystery stuff, it keeps me awake, or dreams or stuff that you say, well, I just woke up. Whatever it is that's keeping you awake, I'd like to take your mind off of that. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Oh, so creaky are my dulcet tones. Almost, yeah, like a sandal on an ancient dock going out to a cabana or a bungalow. You're so right, Sandals Brain. And yeah, we'd be creaking a lot less if we had those sandals that you're imagining right there, for sure. You're always correct with that. So thoughts, feelings, what was my point? Oh, creaky dulcet tones, pointless meanders. You've already got a few of those early. I guess that was more of a superfluous tangent. I'm not sure. But I'm going to go off topic. I'm not going to make a lot of sense. And that's all to take your mind off of stuff while you fall asleep. Now, if you're new, a few pieces of information. This is a podcast you don't really listen to. That's the first thing, you can kind of barely listen. And usually the first time that's not possible because it's not really conducive to the first time. You say, well, I'm just trying to figure out what you're doing. And see what you're up to. How are you going to put us to sleep? What's the story? When do you get to that? I say, okay, I'll explain all that. But usually it's best to look at this podcast as if you were, on a dock looking at the water. And you never know what the water's going to look like. You say, well, boy, I mean, my sandals part is saying, well, is that a turquoise or is that aquamarine? And I'd say, well, it just depends on the time of day you're out here and the surface of the water. So let's just take it in. So the podcast is a bit like that where you say, well, what's the water like? Is it choppy or is it like a tranquil? You say, well, I don't really know. It's just water. It's got it's moving. Small waves, maybe? I don't know. Or small waves choppy? I don't know what to tell you. So this podcast is a bit like that. You say, well, it's not clear. So just listen loosely. The other thing to know is that it takes 2 or 3 tries to get used to this podcast for most people, maybe 80, 90%. Also, that's just a number that I'm guesstimating. Millions of people have said to me, and I'm not kidding, it took 2 or 3 tries before I got used to the podcast, and then I started listening on a regular basis. So give it a few tries. It is free, and it's here. So give it a shot and see how it goes, or give it a couple tests and see how it goes. Oh, the other thing is this podcast really isn't here to put you to sleep. It's just here to keep you company as you fall asleep. I'm more here to be your bedtime companion, your bore bae, your bore bud, your bore sib, your bore bestie. So I'm just here to keep you company while you drift off. And so it's a little bit different. I'm your companion to distract you from whatever's keeping you awake. So it's a podcast you don't listen to. It's a sleep podcast. It doesn't put you to sleep. And it barely gets to any points. Also, it doesn't really work on the first few times you use it. So if you're still with me here after that pitch, I mean, I do have a sandal brain. So is that anything like a horseshoe crab? Do you think there's any do you think there's a place at the Sandals Resorts or the Club Meds that we could observe horseshoe crabs at a distance? Also, here's a question. Do you think a horseshoe crab and an armadillo would be friends? Well, that's probably the best thing I've ever heard in the podcast intro ever. You're probably, wow, I don't know, but I'd like to think they would be. They'd have a lot of stuff to relate about, right? Right, but they'd also have things that, and I think there's a metaphor there because they're both soft. They say, well, we're both really soft on the inside, just like all of us are. But you say, what's it like having an exoskeleton? They say, I don't know. What's it like having a shell and whatever's not an internal one? Well, it's got its ins and outs, if you know what I'm saying. You say, was that a pun? What's it like having that? We both have tails, but they're much different. Okay, well, how do we get to that point? Oh, I was just wondering if that was something, maybe that could be a musical at one of the resorts. Maybe it could be, but I got to get back to the new listener. I forgot what I was going to say. podcasts you barely need to listen to. A couple other things to know if you're new. One is the structure of the show is very different, too. So let me tell you about that really quick, if I can, but I'm never very quick. Show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. So ideally you feel welcome and seen, and you say, well, this could be a safe place for me. I'll have to see. But at least my initial skepticism, I'll check it out and see how it goes. So that's the greeting. Then there's business. And that's just how we're able to bring this podcast twice a week, over 900 episodes so far I've been able to make because of the people, because of the business that keeps the show going. Then there's like the intro. Now, the intro throws a lot of people off that are new because it's like around 12 to 20 minutes long of me rambling. But you could see what happens. I try to do that. Welcome to the podcast. Put you to sleep, but take your mind off of stuff. You're welcome here. Give it a few tries. Structure the show. But then I think about, then I have different parts of my brain that say, hey, come over here. Let's look at these. And then here's the thing. You're with me. I probably took your mind off stuff just by thinking about how nice would it be if an armadillo and a horseshoe crab were friends? And I'd say, what if they were best friends too? Yeah, and they say, well, let's go under here. Let's go. What is it? And they said, maybe they would learn about each other. They say, well, what do you eat? And then the armadillo may say, are you familiar with grubs? And the horseshoe crab would say, are you familiar with, the grubs of the sea? And they'd say, no. And then they probably would sing A Whole New World or something like that. But so that's what the intro is me going off topic as I introduce the podcast. That's what it is for new listeners. Now, my regular listeners, what up? And now you've never heard me pair up an armadillo and a horseshoe crab before, but I've definitely talked about either one of those in by themselves. But so for the regular listener, the intro is part of a lot, like 80, 90% of, I don't know, what did I say? 2% of listeners skip the intro. But so for a lot of listeners, they either fall asleep during the intro or it's part of their wind down routine, whether they start it before they get into bed or after they're in bed. It eases you into bedtime. That's why the intro is 12 to 20 minutes long, is to get you away from the day. And just to help you unwind. So whether you start the show before you get in bed or after, and that's why so many people listen to the intros during the day, like when they need a break at work or when they need to focus at work, but they need a mild distraction. So that's why the intro is so long. It's just me going off topic for your benefit. It's something I'm good at. I'll follow. You say, what was that poem about footsteps and armadillos and horseshoe crabs? And it said the longest set of footsteps ever was me following those. I said I'd follow you two forever just to see what you talk about and what you do. Those were my footsteps behind you, listening in and observing. But it would only be on the wall of the horseshoe crab and the armadillo, watching you with both interest and envy. As you walked along the beach, I walked behind you. And then when you two told me to carry you, I said, armadillo, I don't know you that. You two are best friends. Figure it out. I got to go. So that's the intro. Then there's business. Then there's the story. Tonight it'll be a crossover episode with We Fix Space Junk, a serialized fiction podcast that I love and the creators I love. But so that's what we'll do a tribute kind of episode of their first two episodes. And then there's some thank yous at the end of the show. So that's the structure of the show. The only other thing you really need to know is that the reason I make this show is because you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a place of respite, a place where you can unwind, get comfortable, and drift off. And that's what I'm here to provide is a place for that. And the reason I want to is because you deserve a good night's sleep and because I've been there. You deserve a good night's sleep and your world and our world will be a better place if you get the rest you need. And I know how it feels, tossing, turning mind. I mean, obviously, you say, wait a second, this all started from wanting to know more about some TV-based resorts. And, but then you say, well, what a wonderful thing. We made 2 friends in there. So why not take those? Talk about the path. You say, the path never taken. You see, well, but if that was an option path, I think we could all agree, or most of us, because I realize it's for some people, armadillos or horseshoe crabs, you might say, no, I'd prefer them to stay out of my safe place. We say, okay, well, they will, don't worry. But for a lot of people, you say, wait a second, I could follow a horseshoe crab, and that's our resort. It's called wearing sandals while you follow a horseshoe. You just follow them and you listen in. They talk about stuff. It's a dream come true. So that's it. That's why, I guess like that's the structure of the show. That's why I make the show. And I really appreciate you checking the show out. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive. And I want to help you fall asleep. So thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring you this podcast twice a week. Thanks, everybody. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. Whether it's thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature or routine, schedule, whatever it is. So it could be things on your mind you're thinking about from the past, present, or future. You know, those things that just pop in your head at inconvenient times. How about this? I just thought of this because you know what pop and lock is? Like that's a style. I guess I don't know if it's a dance move or a dance style. Because you could use, it can't just be, it's more than just a move because I almost had the right word, which I'm sure it's a very simple vocabulary, technique. I think it's a technique. But you say, well, what if, you say, what's pop and lock? And I say, well, I don't exactly, I say, it's not the robot. You know it when you see it. But what I was really going to say is like thoughts just pop in your head. Like, what if, this is another technique. Take a technique and build a technique with it. Because sometimes when I'm trying to go to bed, thoughts just pop in my head. And I was just thinking, what if we made those thoughts pop and lock or do any sort of like dance moves you find entertaining but difficult to do on your own? Like pop and lock, break dance. It could be anything. But so you picture that in your mind. You say, oh boy, spilling milk on yourself when you had a suit on or something. You say, okay, that's not a memory I need to think about. I'm going to bed. But you say, okay, well, if the part of my brain, the representative image of that, the person, not the part, not the memory, you could picture yourself doing that. It'd be pretty cool. There's another technique we just found. If you do spill something on yourself, just start to dance right after it. Like in a way you say, well, I just spilled something. That's what I do when I spill something on myself. I dance. It's a dance of acceptance of my imperfection. Being imperfect makes me want to dance. Some part of my brain said, so do you dance all of the time? And I'd say, well, I'd strive to, like, honestly, within me. But I was going to say, what if the part of me that popped that memory into my brain, not necessarily the memory of me spilling milk on myself when I'm wearing a suit. Actually, the last time, I'll get back to it, but the last time I was in a suit, I was at a family function, and then after the family function, this is about 18 months, I don't know, it was 2019. After the family function, and I'm pretty sure this is what happened. There's a buffet, with baked ziti was one of the things in the buffet. And it's like I didn't notice this till it was really embarrassing. So at some point, one of three things happened. While I was eating some baked ziti, it dropped into my lap, and then maybe I ground it into my my lap area, if you know what I'm saying. It was still clearly baked ziti. So that's one of the things that could happen. But I don't think that happened because I don't eat, like if there's a buffet with baked ziti, I don't think I would eat enough. Like I'm usually not eating a lot of baked ziti. If you're new, don't worry, I'll get back to you. This is an early tangent. You're in for a treat. But so I don't think that happened. So the other two things that could have happened is one, I walked, just like Icarus, like some reason my lower extremities like bumped up against some ziti, like, and they say, if you can't laugh at that, what can you laugh at? So that's the other possibility. But the third thing is what I think really happened is I gave a hug. I knew one of the people that was running the buffet. And so I gave her a hug. I said, holy cow, can you take a break? And so maybe there was ziti on their apron. And it got onto my lap area. Now, after that, which even if it was a hug, it was when I was getting ready to leave, but not when I left. So I probably still saw 12 to 20 members of my family and said goodbye to them with a groin full of ziti. Also, that'll be a book or an album I'll put out one day. I don't know, like a lap full of ziti. You're right. Let's just go, let's leave it subtextual. You're right. They're just two different, you're right. A lap full of ziti. I think David Sedaris already wrote that. That was like probably so that's probably how I got to do a groin full of ziti. And then we had to go, so we left this buffet. Then we went to a Walgreens to pick something up. Then we went to an Aldi, an Aldi's or Aldi's, so however you say that, to pick something up. We went from buffet, and then we still had to go again for like a coffee, and we had to bring something to the coffee. So we went to Aldi's to get that. And at some point when I was in the Aldi's, either my brother said it to me or I noticed that I had a groin or a lap full of ziti. Like covered, like not just like, is that ziti or is that, it was like, there was like pieces of ziti and ricotta, it didn't look like embarrassing. It looked like I still had, it was like there was some sort of, what's that called? I had ziti magnetism. It gets even better, I guess. You say, oh boy, you got a magnetic thing going there with your ziti. So if I would have noticed that, at the time I just said, oh, well, that kind of stinks because I only wear a suit like once every 3 years. And I wasn't planning on cleaning the suit until 3 years from now. So now I'll have to figure, and now that I just realized that my suit is still in my closet with the ziti on it. And so what was that? What was my point there? We got to get that suit cleaned. Because it's the only suit I own, too. Wonder how 18 months of ziti will do in there, if it's really ground in. I don't know if I'll be able to shout it out. Oh, my point was, what if I had pop and locked right there on Aldi's? Just started dancing or doing jazz hands, whatever it is. Dancing knees or, hip, Shakira, doing the Shakira hip thing. Or something, some pop culture reference that people actually would recognize, which would take that dance move, I'd say. I don't even know, because people don't do, like, even the dances I'm kind of aware, like some TikTok dance. That TikTok dance where you put your hand above your head while you drop your knees to your ankles so your butt touches your heels. I'd like to be good at, I should have done that one. That's at the end of one of those TikToks from 2019. So my point is, hey, I'm here, whatever's keeping you awake, thoughts, feelings, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature, any of those things, I'm here to take your mind off of that. I think maybe that tangent may have, holy tangential. And the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders, and superfluous tangents, which we went from a pointless meander to a superfluous tangent. Just then, I'm going to go off topic clearly, all to take your mind off stuff while you fall asleep. Now, if you're new, a couple things to know. And it's a little late. I'll agree with you there. One, this podcast does not work for everybody, and it's not everybody's cup of tea. But for the people it works for, it takes 2 or 3 tries. So one thing to know is give it 2 or 3 tries. The other thing is that this is a podcast you don't really listen to. It's a podcast you're barely present for, and you don't have to give it very, very much attention. So you say, okay, well, I wasn't even aware, like ideally say, I don't even know what Scoots was talking about. Something about, he was baking ziti, or he invented a dance called the baked ziti. But it was really just I think, or maybe he said if he could invent a dance, he wouldn't invent a dance called the baked ziti, because he said, well, I don't know. And then he said, maybe I would he goes, I don't think I would do a dance just called the ziti. He said, but maybe the ZD, he could do a dance where you're doing a Z and then a D. And so I don't know, that would be what you'd remember about this podcast in the morning if you're a regular listener. Now, if you're new, just kind of consume that podcast, see if you could have a looser hold on this podcast. Just barely pay attention to me. So that's one thing to know. The second thing to know is that... what is the second thing? This is a podcast. Oh, it's not really here to put you to sleep either. I'm here to keep you company as you drift off. And I give you plenty of time to drift off. The reason the shows are about an hour is so you could drift off at your leisure. There's no pressure to fall asleep. I'm going to be here for about an hour. And if you can't sleep, I'll be here to the very end. I'll be here telling you a bedtime story, whether you're awake or asleep. So it's a podcast you don't need to listen to. It doesn't really put you to sleep, just keeps you company. Ideally, I become your bore bae, your bore friend, your bore sib, your bore bestie, your bore cuz. So those are things you need to know. The other thing is, for new listeners, is the structure of the show can throw people off. Show starts off with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends beyond the binary. So you know you're seen and welcome here. That's how I just start to invite you into the safe place that I'm trying in an imperfect way to create. Then there's business. That's how we're able to bring you a podcast twice a week on a regular basis, is the sponsors and the people that support the sponsors. And that's like a few minutes. Then there's an intro. The intro is around 12 to 20 minutes long, and it's me rambling, going off topic, as you saw, with 2 goals. One, a couple goals. One, to introduce new people to the podcast and give you a general idea of what to expect, which is nonsense and tangents. 2 is to put you to sleep, really, or to try to help you unwind if you become a regular listener. Because regular listeners, is like 2% of regular listeners skip ahead to 20 minutes and start the show there. So everyone else starts the show and listens kind of through, but people listen through in a different way. Some people start playing it before they get into bed as they start to unwind or lightly read or doodle or do any yarn or what is that other stuff called? Thread-based activities. Maybe maybe you're modeling clay. Maybe you're modeling clay like I am. That's my TikTok outfit. I say, oh boy, I'm modeling clay. I'm wearing it as a clay-based outfit. I think if I was I don't know if terracotta is actually a clay, but that seems very breathable. So that would probably be the one I'd be most interested in if I have a choice. But I guess maybe some softer clay on the inside. Though, of course, I'll have a lap full of ricotta, so that helps too. So the intro, so some listeners fall asleep during the intro, but a lot of listeners are either getting ready for bed or they're getting in bed, and I'm easing you into bedtime. So for the regular listener, what up, regular listeners? You're not regular to me. Believe me, you're super special. So I get to come up with another term for that. But you listen on a regular basis. That's what I meant. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to call you a regular listener. You know what I meant. My Borbays, my Borcousins, my Borsibs, my Borbesties, my Borbris. Those of you that dance the ZD and the ZD with me, so you know what I was talking about. I don't. But so it eases everybody into bedtime, takes your mind off of stuff, so you could kind of fall asleep and get some distance from the day. So that's what the intro does. And some new listeners say, why does it go on and on and on? Or why don't you get to the point? Or are you just talking about business or something? I say, no. I'm talking about something, but with a whole lot of nothing. And using ziti as a metaphor, you say, okay, I mean, ziti's the thick, round ones, right? Maybe penne, like a ziti is like a giant penne. Am I on the right track? And some of the, if you baked ziti, is it like a tomato sauce with ricotta cheese? I mean, maybe I'm wrong. And some people could say, like, if you came from a place where you say, like, if you were paying for the buffet and you weren't familiar with ziti, and let's just say you were paying, instead of paying, like you say, well, a dish of ziti is $20, and you weren't paying by pound, you say, well, at our buffet, we do charge by the cubic foot, and you say, well, I don't want ziti because it's a whole lot of nothing. And you say, well, no, it's not. It's ricotta, it's pasta, it's tomato sauce. Very popular because it fits a lot of different eating types. And we use a non-dairy ricotta here, gluten-free pasta. So you see, but it's like if I'm paying by the cubic foot, I want something denser. Can you crush the ziti down? You see, aren't you in the middle of an intro for a sleep podcast? I say, you're right. Thank you. Thanks. You're worth your weight in cubic feet, if you don't mind me saying. Oh, you don't know what I'm talking about? That's great. Anyway, just leave the ziti. I'll have one crushed and one non-crushed ziti, please. Oh, you put it in my lap. Thank you so much. Oh, sorry, that was a part of my brain. So just see how it goes. See how the intro goes. The other things you need to know is I make this show because I've been there and I know how it feels, tossing and turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep. So I just want to help you get a good night's sleep because you deserve a good night's sleep. The world and your world and our world will be a better place if you get the sleep you need. So that's why I make the show, is so you can get some rest. And now the podcast does not work for everybody. So just kind of see how it goes. It's free to listen to. So give it a couple tries and see how it goes. And I hope it helps you. I really appreciate you coming by and checking this podcast out. I've worked very hard. Oh, what else to structure the show? Sorry. After the intro is business. Some part of my brain just told me. Then it'll be our ongoing episodically modular series, Odder Things. And then some thank yous at the end. So that's why I wanted to just tell you that. So thank you so much for checking the show out. I work very hard. I yearn and I strive. I really want to help you fall asleep. And thanks again for coming by. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring you this podcast twice a week. Hey, are you up all night tossing, turning, mind racing, trouble getting to sleep, trouble staying asleep? Well, welcome. This is Sleep With Me, the podcast that puts you to sleep. We do it with a bedtime story. All you need to do is get in bed, turn out the lights, and press play. I'm going to do the rest. What I'm going to attempt to do is create a safe place where you could set aside whatever's keeping you awake. It could be thoughts you're thinking about, so things on your mind, thoughts, feelings. So anything emotional coming up for you, like from the past, present, or future, physical sensations, changes in time or temperature, routine, like what about like RUDE, I don't know if I've used that word. That's a very hard word to use at the beginning of a sleep podcast. But I just thought of it when I mispronounce routine, it almost sounds like routine. So maybe we'll come back to that. But if you've dealt with any of that today at any point or in the past, and sometimes it can come up like you say, well, that was when I was 14, but I'm still feeling a little miffed about it. Then some part of your brain, while you're trying to fall asleep, paradoxically would say, well, I don't know if you should be. And you say, okay, so are you getting miffed at me for being miffed about that, about back then? Yes, I am. Oh, great. Okay, so whatever's keeping you awake, could be thoughts, feelings, could be physical sensations, whatever you're experiencing, I'm here to take your mind off of that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send my voice across the deep, dark night. I'm going to use lulling, soothing, creaky, dulcet tones. Oh, so creaky are my dulcet tones. Creaky, dulcet tones, pointless meanders. Definitely my meanders will be rounded, curved. You see, well, it doesn't look curved to me, Scoots. It looks like a bit like a knotted rope that hasn't been. I say, well, yeah, creaky, dulcet tones and pointless meanders become. Could there be a cacophony of a knotted rope? Yeah, knotted and bundled. You got it. But whatever it is that's keeping you awake, I'd like to distract you from that. So if you're new, a couple things to know right up front. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. So glad to have you here. As you know, this part will be familiar and unexpected at the same time. But if you're new, a few things to know. One, for most people that get to this podcast, some people it instantly clicks for, but for in the high 90% of people, they get to it. And you could approach this podcast with a little bit of skepticism or doubt or just unsure. You're like, I don't know what's going on here. And that's very understandable. So I want to let you know that your skepticism or doubt is justified. As someone that does have trouble sleeping, I've dealt with it too. You say, well, this is really supposed to help me fall asleep. So one, if you're skeptical or doubtful, you'll probably remain that way, to be honest. It's my job to earn your trust, but it does take, according to 90% of listeners, 2 or 3 tries to get used to this podcast. And I guess I would say that's asking a lot, but the podcast is free. And if you're already having trouble falling asleep, just give it a few tries. Try it for 3 nights. Sleep with me, the 3-night try. Give it a try for 3 nights and then see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out, right? So that's one thing. Give it a few tries. The other thing is that this is a podcast you barely listen to. So if you're patiently waiting for the story to start or for me to get to the sleepy stuff, we're already knee deep in sleepy stuff and pointless meanders, and I'll eventually not get very far. So kind of listen like a little bit out of focus and in a relaxed way and just see how it goes. But almost don't pay me any mind. As my Nana always says, particularly right when I get on stage to start a speech or I start a stream or I start recording, she says, don't pay him any mind. And I say, okay. And she says, well, I'm just trying to help and take the pressure off you. And I say, Nana, could you sit down? Everyone else is a guest. I'm trying to. And she said, this is just your imagination. And I say, oh, thanks for doing that before I go out on stage or before I start the stream, Nana, to do that. Like, she goes, yep. She goes, that way, if you're already on the ground, this is another famous thing Nana said. If you're already on the ground, there's nowhere to fall. And I said, wow, Nana. And she said, so if you're prone, you can't, there's no, and I say, huh, prone and alone, and something else, lessons I learned from my internal Nana. I only learned prone, I knew what that word meant, but it's more in my usage now because I've been learning to be a DM, which is like a person that runs a role-playing game in my personal life. Well, I'm sorry, new listener, went off. I was saying that you don't need to listen to me, and this show is full of pointless meanders. So I think I got that part pointed out. It only took me 6 minutes. So that's one thing. You don't need to listen to this podcast. Also, this podcast really isn't here to put you to sleep. It's here to keep you company as you fall asleep. And the good news is that's why the shows are about an hour, is to keep you company no matter how long it takes. And if you can't sleep or you wake up or you need a break during the day, I'm here for you. I'll be here to the very end of this episode. So those are a few other things I wanted to point out to you because they're really important to me, that you know them. So what else is there? Oh boy, I already got mixed up. So I'm here to keep you company as you drift off. Then structure the show also can throw new listeners off naturally. Our show is very structured, but it does look like a ball of knotted rope and yarn. You see, it's that rope, yarn, string, and fishing line. And I'd say, yep, it is, all together. One big bundle of meanders. But so structurally, the show starts out with a greeting. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and friends beyond the binary. And in this particular episode, trees and multiforms. Then there's business. The business is what enables us to bring you the podcast to millions of people every month, twice a week. Then there's an intro. The intro is what particularly throws people off because I think sometimes people think that the business rolls into the intro, but the intro is really the bulk of the first third of the show. And it's about 12 to 20 minutes long, where I kind of, for new listeners, I try to explain what the podcast is. And for regular listeners, it's their symbol or their sign to start getting ready for bed, starting their skincare routine or their wind down routine or their balming routine or their petting routine or their doodling or their knitting, stretching, sitting, or just lying in bed and getting comfortable. The intro provides a chance to provide something familiar, but something that's a little bit different every time to slowly let you wind down and drift away and get some separation from everything else. So that's the intro. Then between the intro and the episode is some business, and then there'll be the episode. Tonight we'll be talking about Doctor Who. But as I said, you'll be saying Doctor Who after you listen, because it will not be... Because actually, I've heard from people from the 70s or 80s, and I was a kid of the 80s, and I say, yeah, no, I know that Doctor Who that used to just pop up on TV was not soothing. This is the new Doctor Who. So that's one part of it. The other thing is it really doesn't, I mean, I've covered other stuff too, and it's like very not like the episode. I cover the episode, but mostly the details, or I can't stick to the subject matter. So it should be very soothing and relaxing. And you say, and if you're a Doctor Who fan, you say, well, I don't know if I can fall asleep. I'm so riveted by that episode. I say, well, just wait and see. So those are a couple of things to know. Then there's some thank yous at the end. So it's just structure show. It's a podcast you don't need to listen to, and no pressure to pay attention, and try if you can not to wait for it to start making sense. And then. Structure, we covered that. And then the other thing is, why do I make this podcast? There's two reasons I make the show. One, you deserve a good night's sleep. You deserve a safe place of respite and relaxation. And that's why I make the show, because you deserve that. And your world, your life will be in a place where you could slowly start to flourish and when you get some rest. And that means our world will be in a better place. When you have the opportunity to grow and flourish. It just makes everybody's world a better place. So that's one reason. The other reason is I know how it feels. And especially right now, the uninspection, remember I used that term not maybe a year ago, but the unexpected nature for a lot of us about sleep. You say, well, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. That's me. I mean, I know how to... I've been doing this 7 years, so I know about bedtime routines and morning routines. And then sometimes it's like comes up and I say, what in the heck? It did everything I did last night, and it didn't work. And that's like a mild version of how it feels, right? It doesn't feel even like that. You say, what in the heck? So I know how it feels. And if I can help anybody at all, if I can help you, it would mean a lot to me. Because I've been there. And really, all I really wanted, and this is the behind the scenes or the underpinnings of the show, is my job is really just to be here, talking nonstop in a nonsensical way to say, hey, it really stinks that you can't sleep. I don't know if there's anything specific I can do to change that, but, I'm familiar with how that feels, and I know it's not pleasant. So maybe I could just be here to tell you a story and keep you company. Because that doesn't seem like, so that's really my job. It isn't to put you to sleep. It's just to be here for you. And ideally, by doing that, you say, well, Scoots is here for me, which is the truth. I'm here for you. You don't have to listen to me. So you say, oh, wait, but I don't have to listen to Scoots. And he's not really here. He's coming across the deep, dark night in, a tree, by bits and whatever, bits and zeros or whatever. So he's not going to leave any crumbs behind or, I say, did you close both doors? Did you push the thing? You didn't leave any half glass of milk out or anything, did you, Scoots? I say, nope. I just came across, by the magical RSS feed. And you say, so there's I can come to you and I can be there for you and there's no pressure on you. And you could set a sleep timer. Or you could, turn me on when you wake up. Some people listen all night. The Patreon is a little bit better for all night listening. It's almost just really hard to figure out a way to make an all night podcast only that's sustainable. But some people make it work. So I know a lot of people do listen all night. Some people start an episode and then listen to it over the course of a week. However works for you over long term is great. But I want you to know that my real job is just to be here to keep you company, to be your boar friend, your boar bae, your boar cuz, your boar sib, your boar bestie. Just to be a simple presence that says, you know what, that seems like it stinks. I could talk about some goofy stuff for a little while and get mixed up and tell you about my Nana and then tell you about this Doctor Who episode I watched. If that might help, I don't know. But I'll be here to keep you company. And if you want to fall asleep at any point, don't worry about it. I'll just be here for you. So that really is a job I am honored to do. That's why I laughed, because it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. That's what makes it even more wonderful. So I think that's it. I'm glad you're here. I appreciate you checking the show out. If this is your first time, like I said, give it a few tries and see how it goes. If it doesn't work, I'm sorry. It can't work. It just doesn't work for everybody. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. You can check out sleepwithmepodcast.com/no. Thank you. But yeah, I appreciate your time. I work really hard. I yearn and I strive. Thanks again for coming by, or thanks for being here night after night. And here's a couple of ways we're able to bring you this podcast for free twice a week. All right, everybody, this is Scoots. This is a tuck you in message. And as I start this message out, I want to make this very clear, especially if you're listening right now and you're new. You only listen to this show occasionally, like once in a while when you need it, or you're just having a tough time right now, getting through something, getting over something, the kind of things I talk about in the intro. Or if you're like me, a lot of times in my life where things financially felt challenging and supporting the show just isn't possible. You really don't need to do anything. You don't need to support the show directly or be concerned because we really do have you. And I'm going to read through some testimonials of people that support the show for them and for you. And those testimonials are just a few of the thousands of people that support the show. So it can be here for people that can't support the show, or it really wouldn't make sense if you're only listening occasionally, if you're new, for you to support the show. So we have you covered. Like the listeners who I'm going to read through tonight, and like I'm trying to return to doing, we've done in the past, they're the reason the show can be here night after night, and that you don't have to worry about it. But before we get to those testimonials, there is a BUT, right? If you are listening right now and you normally listen all night long to 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 episodes a night, or you listen most nights during the week, if you fall asleep fast and you just happen to be hearing this, or you've been listening longer than a year, if the show is a big part of your evenings, your wind down, and your sleep, that's where I've been trying to be more and more clear and direct. I love making this podcast. The people that work with the show, work on the show, love making it. I love being a service, trying to bring sleepy joy and delight, help you fall asleep, bring you comfort in the deep, dark night. But the only way that happens is if you're in one of those listener categories, is if people that listen the same way as you do support the show. And we all go through seasons, right? So maybe you had your season of supporting the show, or maybe your season of supporting the show's coming up, or maybe you're like, well, I'm not sure. Let me look outside and see what I think. Or maybe you're hoping like that someone else will support the show, because it is either you or someone that listens like you supporting the show, or it's no one supporting the show tonight, right? It's either an all-night listener other than you, or you, the all-night listener, you, the multiple nights a week listener, you, the person that's been listening, or someone else that listens just like you, or it's just to be clear, like that's really what keeps the show going and impacts ups and downs of the show. So I don't know if tonight's your night. If you are in a position to support the show, you've been putting it off, maybe think about supporting it right now at sleepwithmepodcast.com/plus. And don't wait for tomorrow or set some kind of thing tomorrow, or kind of like me, think fondly of the person that we're both hoping steps up tonight, that all-night listener, that person that falls asleep fast, somebody that's been listening 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years, or someone that's here every night with us. But who has you guys? You know, who's in the community supporting the show for everyone? Well, Melissa is. Melissa's been listening for over 2 years now, nearly nightly. So a nearly nightly listener. And it helps so much and puts me in a very relaxed mood. I finally subscribed when I realized on most nights I didn't have my phone with me, but I could literally recite the beginning of the podcast in my head. And even that in my head almost worked. And the reason I didn't do it sooner was part of it was cost, but now I'm in a financial place to do so. But the other part was complacency. I think forgetting to do it when I inevitably would fall asleep. I've always been one of the super listeners described on the show, and I kept putting it off. And I think that came from a place of having all free podcasts. I think it was just truly complacency. I think you say it well in the podcast. This show has given me so much support and help. It's time to turn around and support you and the team. It feels nice to feel like we have a hand in keeping it afloat, and that is really true. And Taylor also supported the show, and Taylor said, I'm an adult, late 20s, early 30s, go through brief periods of insomnia that last around a month, and I tried sleeping me on a friend's recommendation and bounced off it. It wasn't until a few years later when I was really struggling that I tried it again, and it worked. And I found the ads distracting and decided to try out ad-free ones by supporting the show, and found this version worked perfectly. The monthly cost is small compared to the benefit I get from the show. And even when my insomnia quiets down a bit, I still enjoy listening to the show because I like listening to Scooter. So thanks, Taylor. And then Stephanie. Stephanie has been listening for about 8 years, and I had the same experience Scooter just describes all the time. I tried the podcast and disliked it. I just didn't get it yet. And then later I was traveling. I thought I'd give her another try, and I've been listening since. And I really like the references on the show, some of the personal stories, and I can fall asleep really quickly now, and that's completely worth supporting the show. And I put on Sleep With Me also to make me feel more comfortable in other times. I just feel like I spend so much money on things that have no meaning in my life. This show means much more to me that I can't help but being a supporter. In the past, I felt like other people would take care of it for me, like there was people with limitless money who should be doing it for the rest of us. But once I really thought about how I spend my money and my deep relationship with the show, I realized I am one of the very few people who should be a supporter. It took a while, but I did so 3 years ago. I feel like I'm probably one of those super listeners. Scooter works hard for us, and hard work deserves fair compensation. And what about Debbie, who said, I listen almost every night, sometimes all night. I try to keep my queue full. I especially like the Trader Joe's episodes. And and I feel comforted by a familiar voice. That's why I support Sleep With Me as a bore bestie, and it seems like a good value. The obstacle to me supporting the show was remembering to do so. Was to remember to do it once I decided to support this podcast. And if I feel responsible, free is great. But if something has worth, it's also important to support it financially. So thanks, Melissa Taylor, Stephanie, and Debbie for supporting the show. It wouldn't exist without listeners like you. And maybe you relate to it. Maybe you're the person tonight, the Taylor, Stephanie, Debbie, Melissa tonight, that'll support the show. And when you do, I believe it, I send out a video and I ask you why. So I'm looking forward to hearing your why of why you support the show. Thanks.